Unlike fanny packs, bowl cuts, and troll dolls, the sensation is back, only at Zaxby's. The Sensation Salad and the new Sensation Filet Sandwich features hand-breaded chicken, Asian slaw, wonton strips, and citrus vinaigrette, and both are served with an egg roll. The Sensation Salad and the new Sensation Filet Sandwich meal, for a limited time, only at Zaxby's. And skip the line when you order ahead on the Zaxby's app or on Zaxby's.com.
From Tally to Cali,
It's time
To wake up!
wake up, wake up.
WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up War Chant presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan. He is Corey Clark, joining us via the telephone as he shuttles his way down from the greater Atlanta area. We both work for WarChant.com. Check out Corey's work over there on WarChant.com by using the promo code WarChant30. Get you 30 free days of access to the ultimate Seminole sports source. Also, get on the tribal council, get involved, get dirty, get messy, talk about the Noles, share your insights, or give us a call at 850-792-5730. We'll take some of those phone calls later this week, I promise, because I've kind of figured out the rhythm now, Corey, of our shows. Mondays, usually kind of like a recap. Tuesday, we talk a little bit about our first impressions of the opponent because we've spoke to Willie. Then Wednesday, it's kind of like, we don't really get to watch that much of practice, so we kind of start running out of steam. So then we'll kind of go to the phone lines, then we'll do Renegade Express on Thursdays. All that rambling done. Corey, introduce yourself. How are you, friend?
I'm Corey Clark. I work for War Chant. I can't remember my title. I think I'm senior writer or lead writer.
Yep.
Had a girlfriend now for 2.5 years, Stephanie. Good person. You've met her. Got an 11-year-old son, Brady. Struggled this weekend in the baseball, but is a good kid overall. We like him. Yep. And, just excited to be covering this Florida State football team going into what will be the biggest win of Willie Taggart's tenure.
There we go. How about them Braves? How about the Bravos on the road?
Yeah, that's not that is completely the antithesis of what a Braves postseason game how it usually goes. I mean, they don't ever come back in the ninth inning to win a game in the postseason. That was crazy. So yeah, it's still not out of the woods. But hey, they got a postseason lead. They got a lead in a postseason series for the first time since 2001. So that's good. So let's see if they can win it, buddy.
I think it was actually 2002 was the stat. 2002 NLDS was the last time I think they had a lead in a series.
Oh, my bad. Hey, I apologize to everyone. Yeah. This ain't Braves. This ain't Wake Up Braves, though.
Right.
I'm not supposed to know all that stuff.
Right. We won't have to wake up too early to cover the game this Saturday, as Corey foreshadowed, potentially the biggest win in Willie Taggart's coaching career, as the Noles get ready to take on number 2 Clemson. I think I haven't looked at the polls. Hopefully they didn't lose any ground being on the bye week. But it'll be a 3:30 kickoff. ESPN, I'm pretty sure, is the channel it'll be on. So it's introduced on the Tribal Council. The thread is just like, kickoff is 3:30, and it's posted by Ira. And the only message Ira put in there is, guess it's better than a night kickoff. So are you on that? It's on ABC. I apologize. 3:30, is that a good thing for the Noles? Sleepy South Carolina crowd?
Oh, yeah, no, that's not going to matter. The crowd won't matter. Maybe, like I said, if they played at 10 a.m., they might maybe have a fighting chance. But, no, I don't think the start time will matter too much. It's good for me, though, or us, or whoever's all going, because we won't be in Death Valley, hopefully, until 1 in the morning, like we would be if it was a night game. Because it is impossible to get out of that place, folks. I don't know how many of y'all have ever been there, but it is one road in and one road out, and the traffic after a game is awful.
I do not see a line on this game yet. It's kind of a bummer.
I saw somebody texting me that it was 27 or 27 and a half.
Oh, actually, no, I do see one. Yeah, 27 and a half, the over-under, 64 and a half points. Man, 27 and a half? No respect. No respect for the surging Seminoles. I'll take that. They'll cover.
What's funny is on headlines this week, somebody asked us, not to cross-pollinate the two shows that I'm on, but somebody asked us if the spread would be 28 and a half. And Ira just was completely exasperated with that spread. I'm like, man, that's not that far off of what I would put. He's like 28.5. You're crazy. You're crazy. There's no chance. And here we are. What is it? He was a point off. So take that, Ira.
I feel like that's.
I was like, man, I would put it because Cameron was like, oh no, it'll be like 17.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm like, 17? Yeah. You're going to give me – so, okay, let's do it right now. I'll take Clemson minus 17. And then immediately he goes, well, no, more like 21. And I'm like, oh, that was a quick 4 points in the span of a millisecond. And then Ira's like, yeah, no chance it's going to be 28. I'm like, what are y'all watching? What? I mean, I know that they've looked better, but number one, odds makers, they saw the game last year. It's a bye week. Clemson's angry, and it's Florida State. So, I mean, doesn't that seem? I mean, that does seem a little big, but 38 to 10 or 45 to 17, that wouldn't shock you, would it?
I guess when you put it that way, not really. But that's the same line as Syracuse had. But I guess that game was actually at Syracuse. So
Carrier Dome, and Syracuse plays them well. Like the last two times they beat them 2 years ago, and then should have beat them last year. Yeah. Syracuse ain't afraid of those guys. But Florida State, on the other hand, we're going to see what they're made of. And I don't mean that flippantly. I mean, we're really going to see what Florida State is made of this weekend, how they compete, if they're in that game, if they play hard, if they go in defeated, if they go and play like 28-point underdogs, or if they give Clemson a fight. Because, by the way, I would never touch that line. That does seem like a lot because I do think Florida State's playing better, and I do think Clemson hasn't looked great. So I understand the reasoning Ira had by thinking that would be a huge number. But just, if you were an odds maker, you wouldn't put it at 20 or 17 because people would hammer Clemson. So it'll be interesting. I bet it drops a point in Ira's defense.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it could get away from them late in the game. I do think they're going to play tough, though, and I think win or lose, no matter if they don't cover, if they cover, I think they're still going to play hard the remainder of the season. This isn't much of a referendum, I don't think, but it could be a little bit discouraging if you're one of these sort of hyper-focused on day-to-day process of the football team, and you're kind of riding and dying with them as if they were some sort of stock. Because, if they do lose, by 31 points or something like that, then you're like, well, here we go. We're no better than what we were. But, hey, they lost by 49 points last year to this team, which was a better team. So I don't know how you figure all that calculus in. But, yeah, I don't know. This isn't a GPS game for me, man. I don't really know how much we'll learn about how close they are on the roadmap to getting back to where this program wants to be. But I think they'll just show the fight, kind of the competitiveness that you want to see that maybe got away from them for too much of the game last season. It was a close first quarter. I think they were tied scoreless after one. Third quarter they kind of let it get away from them. This game, maybe the fourth quarter would get away from them, but I don't think, again, to the degree that it would be. We don't know the quarterback starting is going to be. You might know, folks, as you're listening to this, because we're taping this on a Sunday. We'll talk to Willie as he begins game week preparation. I'm sure that'll be a heavy dose of those questions. I'm sure he'll give us an awkward answer, and then follow-up questions will be summarily dismissed in an awkward fashion. Corey, you provided some sort of reasoning potentially, or at least some well-educated opinion on just what separates these quarterbacks, if anything, right?
Well, yeah, I wrote a column last week, middle of last week, maybe late last week. Who knows? They all run together. About I don't understand the passion that people have for either guy. Because I understood why people were excited to see Hornibrook play against NC State because of how he looked at the end of the Louisville game. By the way, how about Louisville putting up 600-something yards on Boston College? That Boston College game looks a heck of a lot more winnable now.
Yep.
So I understood why people were excited about seeing Hornibrook against NC State. But now that we've seen him for a whole game against a not good defense, it's 6 of one, half dozen the other. Like they both do things differently, but they're both about the same quality. Neither is great. One might look good for a half, the other might look good for a half. But neither one of these guys, in my opinion, is an NFL quarterback. Neither one of them is an all-conference type quarterback, in my opinion. They're just pretty good. So what you do, in my opinion, is who cares who the starter is? You just ride a hot hand. I think you're in a position now to do that. And I get, maybe start Hornibrook and see if he can pick them apart. He's certainly not going to go over the top and beat them. But maybe he can pick them apart and then you ride the hot hand. But if he shows that he can't, and they're getting too much pressure because they don't fear his arm, so they play up on your receivers and they come and attack the line of scrimmage, and he can't get throws off, and he can't run that offense well against that kind of pressure, then you put Blackman in, or vice versa. Blackman struggles, put Hornibrook in. Whatever it is, but I think what that game did, what those two games did with Hornibrook, is now you know you have a quality guy. And I guess you call him a number 2, because Taggart said, if Blackman's healthy, he's our starter. So you now know that you have a quality number 2. And if Blackman starts struggling immediately, if he starts 2 or 3 series where he's starting to look like he's got the yips again, and he looks like Blackman is starting to maybe spiral a little bit, well, now you have a comfort. You have a security blanket. And you can go to Hornibrook and know that he might be able to get you out of it, instead of just banging your head against the wall with Blackman with 4 or 5 or 6 straight drives where he doesn't look good. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's kind of where I think you're at. The whole saying about if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. Man, I don't. In this instance, and usually I agree with that. If you're playing multiple quarterbacks, it's not great. I just think in this instance, it's perfect. Neither one of these guys, in my opinion, is good enough to just completely wrestle the job away and earn it and keep it. But it's like having sometimes starting pitchers don't pitch well, and then you go into a reliever who hasn't been very good, but is lights out for that day. You can do that. If Blackman struggles, you've got a backup in Hornibrook that you can depend on. And then if Hornibrook struggles, you got a backup in Blackman that you can go back to. I just think that's kind of where you are. You'd like one of them to be good enough that you didn't have to do this, but do you think either one of those guys are?
No. Yeah, I mean, they're like you said, 6 in one half dozen in the other. They're the same guy. Just one's a lefty, one's a righty. One's really thin, the other one's not as thin. But I guess it's to the point that you've mentioned on the show before. It's kind of like the unknown. Even though we've, the fans have seen, whatever it is, 6 quarters out of Alex Hornibrook now. It's still a lot less than what they've seen out of James Blackman. They know what they have from James Blackman, and apparently for a lot of folks, it's not enough. It's not FSU caliber, as they say. I don't quite think Alex Hornibrook is, but I guess the potential is there that maybe he does. Maybe he does continue to flourish with the continued coaching from Kendall Briles. He's never threw for 300 yards in his whole entire collegiate career, and then sure enough, the first start he makes, voila. So I guess these are the sort of things that fans are going to kind of, I don't say this in a patronizing manner, but these are the sort of things that you're going to hang on to, the silver linings, the glimmers of hope that you want as you head into a really daunting contest against a team that is the gold standard in the conference right now. So I get where they're coming from. But it is the passion though is the weird thing. I can understand just, hey, we haven't seen enough from Alex. Let's just keep throwing him out there, and then we can make maybe a better judgment on whether or not he is better or not. But like the passion that is debated on the tribal council with him is. It's admirable, I guess. It'd be really cool if you're him or his family and you read these people talking about how much they appreciate your son and how great they think he is. But it is a bit. I can't follow it. I'm not there. I'm not there yet. But such is life.
Well, and again, I understood it after you watched him against Louisville, right? When you watched him against Louisville, you're right. Wow, that looked different. It wasn't incredible. They didn't just march up and down the field, but he did really well in the fourth quarter, and he got him rallied back. And he made some plays when he had to, and he made all the right reads, or a lot of the right reads. And you're like, okay, well maybe this offense is suited perfectly for him somehow. But then in the NC State game, and I've had people tell me, yeah, it just looks different with Hornibrook. It just looks like it flows better with Hornibrook.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I understand that, and to a certain extent, I might even agree with that. But at the end of the day, he put up 31 points, right? Isn't that what they scored? 31.
Yeah.
In 400 something yards of all. I mean, it wasn't any different. The production wasn't any different, and he got sacked 8 times. Some of those were on him, and one of the drives was aided by 2 third-down personal fouls on NC State, or who knows how that game goes. So I don't want to dismiss what he did. He had a nice game, but it's just not special. Either one of these guys isn't special. So it's not, and I wrote in the column, at least I think I did. Maybe Ira took it out. I don't read them after he edits them, folks, so don't blame me if you don't like them. It's probably all Ira's fault. But, it's not like it's Winston versus Coker. Yeah. This isn't, Aaron Rodgers versus Matt Flynn. I mean, this isn't These two guys are really even. The production they put up is really even. I think Hornibrook leads the touchdown drive. Granted, smaller sample size for sure, but he also, he didn't have to play Virginia. But I think the touchdown drives, Hornibrook's like 35%, Blackman's 33%. There's just not enough variance to say for that. Again, I get it if you have your favorite, that's fine, but I don't understand being so hell-bent on saying we got to see Hornibrook or we've got to see Blackman. It's like, man, they're the same. It's the same to me anyway. It's just the production looks the exact same. Clemson, that's a daunting game. I don't know who you're going to play. What it matters when you're playing Clemson. But moving forward, I think you're going to have a chance to really do some damage with the two-quarterback system. I really do think so. I think they both have their strengths. One throws the ball a lot better, distance-wise. The other guy seems to get it out of his hand a little quicker and maybe read it a little quicker. They both have strengths and they both have weaknesses, so we'll see how it works.
Hey, let's keep it with Clemson. Let's go back to the Renegade Express mailbag, some stuff that we weren't able to get to during our mega-long, hour-long show the end of last week. It comes from Seminole JM, but apparently it's his son. He says that he posts under his father's username from time to time. Do my best to keep his war chant credibility on the up and up. I listen to the show every morning walking to class, and I love it. It's funny. I actually attend Clemson and have classes with Lynn J. Dixon, Chase Bryce, B.T. Potter, and several others, just to name a few. Hashtag name drop. I've gotten pretty close with a couple of their lesser-known players and asked them every week how they feel about whoever they're playing. Despite the wake-up call UNC gave them, they remain astoundingly just as arrogant. In their opinion, FSU sits roughly on the same plane as UNC Charlotte when they play to their potential. That is, Clemson plays to their potential. Corey, your pessimism is warranted, but to have on paper more talent than them when strictly stars are considered, their abounding arrogance, and our newfound positive trajectory and confidence, well, that's upset material. My question is, to tip the scales a little more, do you have suggestions or ideas to subtly sabotage them in between classes?
I mean, banana peels are always nice. I feel like, for them to slip on, I would say, like, it sounds like if it's the lesser-known guys, though, that's not going to do us any good. Like, you need to go find where Trevor Lawrence is and, I guess, sneak into his room and cut his hair.
Ooh.
Would that? How creepy would that? Like, if he woke up without hair, like, because you could cut somebody's hair, right? Especially when it's that long.
Yeah.
Could you cut their hair and then sleep through it?
I think so. There's only one way to find out. Seminole JM.
Yeah,
there is your charge.
So cut his hair like really short, like up to his ears, like really, really short. And he's going to wake up and leave the rest of the hair just on the bed, like the scene in Godfather. And he's going to wake up and he's going to, because Trevor Lawrence wakes up and immediately just runs his fingers through his hair. Like that's the first thing he does. Just straight through and just kind of just plays with it and does what people with long hair do. And just he wants to pull up the mirror that's by the side of his bed and admire it. And then he's going to be horrified. And he's going to see all his hair in just a clump in the bed next to him. And it's going to be that scene from Godfather. He's going to scream lie at the top of his lungs. He won't be right for a month. So that's probably your best shot if you can find a way to get in his apartment and cut his hair. You got any ideas, Aslan?
I would say maybe put some sort of white powdery substance in a bag and then maybe on the person of one of the players. And it obviously doesn't have to be an illicit white powdery substance, but just enough to maybe get a police officer to pull them over so that there could be some, salacious headlines, even though they would be, recused or rather they'd be relieved of any sort of punishment. But just the fact that there would be that focus on them, that negative energy, the negative sort of media attention, maybe that would knock one of their guys off their game. But I don't even know, is Trevor Lawrence the leg you want to kick off of the stool from Clemson? The defense is what's been keeping them strong and keeping them in all these games. Don't we want to soften up the defense, or is it just the easiest thing to get rid of their quarterback, who's been kind of struggling?
I think he's the head of the snake.
Okay.
Even though the defense has been the reason they won the North Carolina game, I still think he's what makes it go. He's the face of the program. So I would say I don't mind the powdery substance, But I would say just put it on their bus before they go circle it for their running down the hill.
Okay.
A huge, just illicit drugs everywhere, all over the bus. Make the cops have to pull them over, even if none of the guys get arrested. It's still going to screw with them a little bit right before they have to run down that hill.
All right.
And then you're in their head. Then they're not in the game. They're wondering, what was all that? Why were there so many syringes on our bus? What was all that powder? What was with the dance music? Like all that stuff. Just litter their bus with illicit drugs and illicit materials. Nothing violent or dangerous.
Right.
And see what happens. Just get in their heads somehow.
Mr. Clutch _ 1992. So we beat 2 scrub teams, and all of a sudden FSU is back? Let me see how they look against Wake and Miami. Clemson, definitely a loss. But if you guys had to see one way each of how FSU could pull off the upset, what or how would it be? Ricky redeeming himself with a 50-yard game winner, Hornibrook not overthrowing a wide-open Tamorian Terry, or how about Cam Akers going off for 250 all-purpose yards and 3 touchdowns? P.S. I downloaded Seminole Headlines, Corey. This show is way more censored. Kind of sad. Headlines only shows once a week. Can't stop laughing between you, 5-Star, and Jeff. What is your weekly schedule, big guy? You seem to stay busy.
It's not crazy. Football is a little bizarre because it's a lot of going back and forth between Tallahassee and Atlanta. But yeah, I do these shows nightly. Wake Up War Chant nightly, and then I do headlines on Tuesday, and then I try to write when I can and just make everybody happy. That's what I do. And as far as an upset, yeah, sure. Let's have Aguayo kick a 50-yarder at the Horn to beat Clemson 33-30.
Okay. I want to win by 1 point. Like I want the field goal to really matter.
You want it to be Tamorian?
No,
okay. You want it to be like, it's not tied. They're down.
Yeah, they're down 28-26. Field goal, you win 29-28.
Okay.
Just, suck it. Eat that, Dabo. Everybody run onto the field and hug each other. Losers.
And we know that Hornibrook's not going to overthrow Terry.
Correct.
Not
That's good.
possible.
Don't have to worry about that one. Let's go to Tommy Hawk Chop. Wake up, gents. The fan base has started the season with high hopes. We could maybe win 10 games, then went to dragging lower than Aslan's Tinder Tuesdays. We may only win 2 games, but back to higher than Corey's weekly miles. Maybe we can win 7. Moving forward, we need to solidify our coaching staff, recruit big, especially athletes that can be offensive tackles. Pick your defensive coaches for 2020 within the reality of what they can do. Also, high school defensive tackles that can convert to the O-line. Is that a strategy we should pursue? I don't really know what the question was here. Yeah, it's been an up and down season. I don't know, really. Nobody on this show thought we could win 10. Some of you folks did. This show didn't. It did get down to as low as my love life with only maybe a 2 or 3 win season, but now we're back to 7 wins, so that's a good thing. I don't know if he's asking us to pick our defensive coaches for 2020 within the reality of what they can do. I'd like T-Buck, keep Levitt as your defensive coordinator. I don't want to speak too much out of school. If Levitt likes another linebacker coach out there that might be better than Raymond Woody, I'm not opposed to that. Keep Odell, Mark Snyder. I'm fifth. I would imagine if you lose Barnett, you probably lose Snyder as well. I'm not married to Mark Snyder. I wouldn't, I'm fine either way. I would trust Levitt's judgment on that. And I don't know, man. I don't know if Florida State has the time right now to start doing all these projects to convert guys from defensive line to offensive line. They do need to recruit big. And I don't know if you're talking about recruit big as in terms of just large human beings, or they need to start getting some really elite guys because they're going to start running out of them sooner than later.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing moving forward is the line of scrimmage on both sides. I think that's always going to be the biggest deal. And you just got to get a real offensive line. And Randy Clements is doing what he can. He's doing yeoman's work. They've been serviceable, which is certainly better than they were last year. But we are going now on 4 or 5 years of abject failure on the offensive line. And the reason I don't get to watch many Georgia games. And I'm not comparing Florida State to my alma mater, really, not in any other sense, but this sense. It is embarrassing how much better Georgia's offensive line is than Florida State's. There's no reason in 2015 or 2016 and 17 that Georgia was recruiting that position at a much higher level than Florida State. It makes zero sense. Just doesn't. Florida State's a better program than Georgia. It has been for 4 decades. Better facilities, everything, more tradition, more history. And had a national championship coach and offensive line coach at the time. And they couldn't recruit better than this. And then I watched Georgia because, like I said, I don't get to watch them much, on Tennessee. And they just, in the second half, just say, we're just going to line up and beat you because we're bigger and stronger than you. And Florida State hasn't been able to do that in 6 years. And before that, 12 years. Like, they've had 1.5 good seasons, it seems like, in like the last 16 with an offensive line. And that's football. And Briles is doing what he can, but good grief, go get whatever it takes. Converting defensive tackles, letting Marvin Wilson play both ways. I don't care. But figure that out, because watching these other teams, watching Oklahoma and watching Georgia, everybody's got great skill players, man. Georgia has a good running back. Florida State has a good running back. Jake Fromm's a nice player. He's nothing special. But that offensive line is the everything for Georgia. Everything. And it just boggles my mind why Florida State has been so bad for so long. And until that gets fixed, not just fixed as where it's adequate, but fixed as to where it's awesome, the ceiling is only so high. Again, Jameis Winston was great in 2013. He was the biggest reason why they won the national championship. But 4 of those offensive linemen played in the NFL. That was a great offensive line, too. That matters. And I know this isn't old news. This isn't exactly breaking. You don't have to stop the presses with this. But fix the offensive line and figure that out and start recruiting guys like Dante Lucas, more guys like that. And by the time they're sophomores and juniors, you can have a real offensive line with 3 or 4 NFL guys on it. Sorry, I'm off my soapbox. By the way, did you know that Hornibrook's brother is an offensive lineman at Stanford?
I did not know that. I did not know.
I was watching the Stanford game on Saturday night, and they only have like 7 scholarship linemen left because they've had all these injuries, and another guy gets hurt. So they run in a Hornibrook. And I'm like, and he's from Pennsylvania. I'm like, well, that's weird. I wonder if that's his. I've never heard that. And so I got online, and it's his brother. And of course, on the first play, he's at the 5. They're at the 5-yard line. This is against Washington. It's a real team. Stanford is at the Washington 5, first and goal. Hornibrook comes in at guard. Big, huge, hulking dude. First play, he double teams the defensive tackle, pushes him to the side, and then leaves that double team, runs to the linebacker, pushes him out of the way, and paves the way for a 5-yard touchdown. It was as good a play as any Florida State offensive lineman has made in who knows how long, and it was his first play of a season. So, I don't know. Start recruiting guys like that. Start paying them more. Start getting them to transfer from Wisconsin.
Well, they run a little bit of a different scheme over there. They're kind of a little bit more well-versed in that sort of stuff. But,
you're right. Sorry, folks. That was way too long to tell you that the Florida State offensive line isn't any good, which isn't breaking news.
Well, here's the thing, man. They've got 5 current verbal commitments on the offensive line. They're all 3 stars. Only one of them weighs over 300 pounds. So you have to you have to start recruiting elite on there. I mean, I guess maybe Willie. You can't work magic on every sort of position, but man, just you got to find guys there that can come in day one. And these guys, Thomas Schrader, Manny Rogers, these are guys you can call under the radar or undervalued sort of recruits. There's a lot of sort of good buzz around them. Alex Adakevich out of IMG Academy, he was a 2-star, now he's been bumped up to a 3-star, and we know how hit or miss star ratings can be, especially when we're talking about offensive linemen. But go get the guys that are can't misses. Go get. It sucks when you put all
but
this.
How does that happen? Why would it can't? And we all know that offensive line recruiting is even a different animal than every other position. It's just by far the hardest to evaluate. But how does Florida State go and get the can't miss guys? Like, how do they recruit over a Clemson or a Georgia or an Alabama or an LSU? Like, they don't have the track record here recently. So that's really hard to do. It's almost like you got to find diamonds in the rough. And on that national championship line, Brian Stork was a 1-star tight end. Cam Irving was a 2-star defensive tackle. They figured out, they had to switch positions, but they figured out I don't think Matias was a big recruit either. I think, and Trey Jackson was committed to Georgia Tech before he signed with Florida State. So those weren't all can't miss guys. They just turned into a really good lineman. You just got to hope you hit on these guys. But you want them to go recruit the can't miss 5-star super duper studs. but I don't know if that's even feasible right now on that position. Do you?
I'm just saying, like, if you want to get this thing fixed in time, I just don't know how much time they have to keep, harvesting these, these diamonds in the rough and then coach them. I mean, the Christians from the 2017 class, kind of actually the 2018 class, like Meadows and Armstrong. And I feel bad because they've only been on campus for 2 years. Christian Meadows has been banged up most of the time. He's had his arm in a sling. But you're not getting anything from that recruiting class. This past recruiting class, you have Dante Lucas. Maurice Smith is your third-string center. Jay Williams, the guy that you went to the JUCO route and got, has not been able to really find any sort of niche. The true freshman guys, your Ira Henry, hasn't been able to also kind of crack the two deep. And again, it's not to say that these kids aren't going to become good, but I still know. I mean, this rebuild and everything, like, I get it. Like, listen, it's going to be 4 years. Nobody thought that'd be an acceptable sort of timeline, but that's the way it's working out, it seems. And that's what they're working with in terms of the talent. So if you want to expedite that, I think, you have to either hit on some really good grad transfer guys, but I don't really know how feasible that is. Like, how many guys that are really good that can go make a living doing this are going to be like, I'll leave here. I'll go hang out in Tallahassee for another year to get my tape a little bit better. So I don't know. But to your point, just real quick, and then we can maybe pivot or you can give your final word on it. If Josh Ball doesn't get dismissed from this school, you have a pretty good starting left tackle. If Landon Dickerson doesn't, fall out of favor with the new coaching staff or doesn't like the culture of the new coaching staff, you have a really good guard. And, if Andrew Baselli doesn't lose heart and not want to do this football thing and quits, if he sticks around, maybe right by now he's been groomed enough that he steps in over Bavion is a little bit better. So I get it, man. I'm not defending the guy that was here beforehand, but there were some really odd things that kind of happened with the talent they did have that they shouldn't have been in this position. It wasn't a total dereliction of duty. Jawan Williams injured his shoulder last season. I think he's had a bad shoulder 2 years that he's been here. Imagine if he doesn't get hurt. Again, he's not a world beater, but he's probably a serviceable enough tackle that you could have bookended him with a guy like Josh Ball, Dickerson in the middle, Brady Scott the other guard, and then Baselli's your second-year starting guy at center. It's probably not that bad of an offensive line, but it just didn't work out that way. It didn't.
Yeah, and remember, Bavion, to the previous staff's credit, Bavion was, I think, the number 1 or number 2 center in the country.
Yeah, he was.
He just hasn't been that guy.
He had a knee injury too, I think.
He's serviceable. He's just, but he couldn't beat out Everly, which you could argue whether he should have or not, but he couldn't beat out Everly. So, they enjoy. I think Jawan was rated pretty high. They have one of the better in 17. I think they have 16. One of the better offensive line classes in the country. Yeah. It hasn't materialized. It just hasn't. Poor evaluation, sure. Also some poor coaching by both staffs. Have really hurt them. But however, we're both saying the same thing. You just gotta find a way. And I think your quick fix, like I said last week, you go to every Group of 5 conference. You look at their all conference, whoever the coaches voted for the best offensive lineman in the country or in the conference, and you get them to transfer to Florida State. That's all I'm saying. The kid at Georgia Southern, who might be an NFL talent, but he developed a little later when he was 19 or 20, as opposed to 16 or 17. And now he's killing it in the Sun Belt or whatever conference that is. You say, hey, buddy, you're going to finish your career in Tallahassee. That's what you do. That's your quick fix right there.
Showstopper 24 just wants to send a nice note. Good morning, guys. I was recently in Spain for 2 weeks. I missed the Louisiana Monroe and Virginia game while I was out in Spain with the wife. Was not able to watch either game live, but watched the condensed games on YouTube the following morning. Just wanted to say that I still listen to this show every day. It certainly made me feel like I wasn't missing a beat in the day-to-day activity of the football team. Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome. We do our best. We try. Yeah. We try.
And then John Henry Jones Jr. A couple of weeks ago, you had a question about which player you would want to have your back in a fight. Right now, the obvious answer is Groathouse. You absolutely know that every time he lands a punch, he shouts Groat Smash, just like every time he nails a kickoff. Aslan, did you ever work at V89 or spend much time going to shows at Club Down Under? I think our time as students overlap. Just wondering if we ever ran into each other. I think V89, that's like the student-run radio station, which I didn't. What I did do, and this is maybe not one of life's great sorrows, but one of those what-ifs, they did have a cattle call for the student radio station back when I was a student. I went to it. There was, probably 50, 60 kids kind of all in this big room or whatever, and you just sign your name up, and it's just like, hey, I want to do radio or whatever. And then I think maybe they either kind of auditioned you or sat you down, and then they actually sat me down. I just pitched some random fake highlight. I just started calling. The guys were like, "Wow, dude, you're really good." And they called me back, and I never returned the call. Like, they wanted me to come work at the student radio station, and I just, for whatever reason, just because I'm stupid, I never called them back. And I know one of the kids that actually, I think, interviewed me, he's like at a top 10 television market right now. Not doing sports, but doing news. But, yeah, like when I was struggling after college for a while, I'm like, man, I should have done that. Maybe I would have been able to get my whole broadcasting thing fast-tracked. But, alas, I'm here. I'm happy. And that's all that really matters. And that's the last question. So we're done with all that, Corey. We're done with all that.
At Birch Orthodontics, they know what a difference a beautiful and healthy smile can make in your life.
They take the time to get to know you and perform a thorough exam so that they can make an individualized treatment plan just for you or your child.
They use the latest technology in a warm and comfortable environment. So whether you are interested in traditional metal or clear braces or clear aligners, they can give you the smile you deserve. They know investing in your smile means investing in your future. And at Birch Orthodontics, they are honored to be a part of your smile journey.
Serving Tallahassee for 16 years and supporting the Noles since forever. Check them out at birchorthodontics.com. BURCH orthodontics.com. Other thing to maybe talk about, basketball had a scrimmage on Sunday. I went and watched it. I don't even know what was going on there. They did like two halves, and I'm like, okay, cool. Then they got ready to play a third half, which is not technically a half, a third period of 15 minutes on the clock, and I'm like, I'm out of here. Ira stood there and stayed the whole time because that's what Ira does. They have a transfer or a kid that's from Canada, Nathaniel Jack. That kid impressed me. Mm-hmm. Really good shooter. Really, really good shooter. MJ struggled mightily in the first sort of period of scrimmaging they ran, but then at one point in that second period, I think he knocked down 4 straight threes. Like he shot the heck out of the ball. Trent Forrest looks as good as ever. Smooth, silky. He's got this he's done it before, I think. He's got this really sort of crazy no-look hook, like fastball pass he does when he's driving through the lane. Did that a few times. Patrick Williams, the kid from Charlotte, correct?
Yeah.
He had a couple shots that were off. I did like it. He missed an open corner three kind of with a minute left in one of the periods, and then they had like a little sort of mini halftime or whatever, and he had MJ kick him the ball until he actually made it. Like he missed it another time, and then MJ, he's like, give it to me again. Then he wanted to make sure he knocked it down. So I mean, he looks physically imposing, and then Cabangeli obviously was a very dynamic big for them, but I'm really intrigued by the Pole they have, the kid from Ole Miss that's Polish. He's a grown friggin' man. He's a grown man. Looked really good on some screen and roll stuff, some pick and roll stuff. So that's an encouraging thing. I don't think we won't fill in the shoes of Cabangeli, but definitely gives you some more versatility than what you've had with guys like Ojo or Kumaji. So they look good, man. Like you said, I think they look like a 7-10 seed, and then I don't want to play that team with a guy like Trent Forrest leading the way come March. So felt good. They look good, man. I like them. I like the team. A good, likable team.
Yeah, it's just going to be who the second and third guys end up being. MJ Walker has to take another step, in my opinion. Or Vassell. One of those two guys has to take a big leap. I think Vassell has a little more potential, a little better finisher. Well, I think he's actually a lot better finisher, and a good shooter and a really good athlete. So I just think he might have a little more overall potential than Walker, and I wonder how much they'll play together, Vassell and Walker and Forrest. But yeah, you got to have somebody step up and fill. You're not going to fill the shoes of Terrence Mann and Cabangeli. Those were your two best players last year, and those are huge losses. But collectively, you got some players that can do some things for you. It's good to hear about the Jack kid because I wasn't even sure he was going to show up. Like they offered him. I would check on him occasionally, whatever JUCO he was at. I would look at their stats occasionally. In some games, he would go like 1 for 9 from 3, or other games he would play 6 minutes. And I'm like, wait a second, Florida State signed a kid from JUCO. Signed him. It wasn't like they were trying to keep him under wraps and they were just recruiting him and didn't want anybody to know. Like, hey, don't play him. We don't want any of the big boys to find out about him. Like, they had already signed him. And they have a recruit that's scoring like 4 points a game in a JUCO, and I'm like, that's nuts. So that's good to see. That's what he's on the court to do. They want him to be like Savoy. Like, just that's all he does is shoot threes, and it's a great last name if that's what you're going to do. So yeah, that's good. That's good to hear that he was impressive because they need an extra shooter or two after losing Savoy and Nichols. Nichols was a really good knockdown shooter for them late in the year.
And then last thing, do you have any observations from the weekend? I think maybe you feel a little bit better about the Miami game. Obviously, feel a little bit better about the Boston College game. I don't know what to feel about the Florida game. I realize that was a really ugly game. Bo Nix, a.k.a. Bo Picks, a.k.a. Bo Trash, a.k.a. Trash Man Bo, a.k.a. Garbage Pail Bo, whatever nickname you want to give that. I mean, just horrendous. I know Florida's defense is really good. They have a really aggressive front four that are going to get after you. By the way, one of those guys, that Jonathan Grenard guy, I don't know if you remember, he was at ACC kickoff 2 years ago when he was with Louisville. He sat down and talked with us. But he got injured like first or second game of last season, was injured all of last year, and then he grad transferred or whatever to Florida. So lucky for us. Just to see these, I don't want to compliment these losers, but like the atmosphere there looked pretty scary. It looked pretty intimidating, and that's the whole thing. Kind of gives me pause. Like Dan Mullins is an SOB when it comes to playing rivals. That game when we play them, they're going to probably pack that place out. It's going to be loud. It's going to be hostile. I think even more so. It's going to be more rabid than what this team is going to face in Clemson on Saturday, and I just don't feel good about it still. Their offense looks kind of trash too, but he just figures out ways to get points on the board somehow, Dan Mullen. But that's where I'm at. And then, I don't know, man, what happened to Tennessee? They were up on you guys for a second, weren't they? And then Georgia just said, we're not playing around anymore? I didn't get to watch that one.
Yeah, they hit a big pass and then had another nice drive, and then Georgia's like, okay, that's all. You're not doing anything else. Georgia's just a lot better than them. With Florida, yeah, man, I think I'm putting that into almost the category now of you're not winning that game. The spread won't be 28, but if Trask is going to play like that, other than the goofy fumbles, have some pocket awareness, buddy. But they're better with him as opposed to the guy they lost. Like that makes them an even better team, which is crazy. The dude never even started in high school. I don't even understand what he's doing on a college football team. But now he's starting for like the number 6 or 7 team in the country. Now they still have a lot of games left. I mean, they got LSU, they got Georgia. They might play Alabama. I don't know. I feel like they've got 2 or 3 really hard games left before Florida State. So we'll see what they look like by Thanksgiving. But yeah, that's going to be. I would be very, very surprised if they win that game. But yeah, man, the Miami game and the BC game, like either one of those teams. Not that Florida State is either, but especially Miami. Like that was crazy. Like if they don't hit that Hail Mary, which is a big if, I think they're going to lose by 50 points. But they did, and then they fought back, and I'm not sure they would have allowed Fuente back on the plane if Virginia Tech hadn't lost that game. But imagine being a Miami fan. You're just completely dejected. They pull the guy that you think is a good quarterback because he throws 3 terrible interceptions. You're down 28-0 basically at the half. The people that are there, I'm sure half of them wanted to go home. And then they make this great rally. Virginia Tech completely goes into a shell, we're just going to keep running into the line and punting. And they go back, they show some heart and show some life, score with a minute left to take the lead, or 2 minutes left to take the lead, you think, and then the kid misses the extra point, and then you allow a touchdown right on the next drive after they hadn't done anything the whole game. It's like, I feel like that's almost as demoralizing as if they'd have lost 42-0. To come all the way back and then completely melt at the end of the game. Must have been really demoralizing for that program. Not that anybody feels bad for them.
Right.
But, yeah, I think you look at the schedule now, right? And I think you chalk up – you already got 2 losses, and I think you definitely chalk up this week as a loss. I think most of us are probably chalking up Thanksgiving as a loss.
Yeah.
If things keep the way – if Florida keeps looking like that and doesn't suffer injuries, that's just a really tough thing to do. That's a tough task to go win that game. But the other – don't you think the other games are all coin flips are better? Maybe Wake isn't. But all the other 4 games, you're thinking, man, they should win that game.
I feel good about everything.
I think you're thinking they beat Miami. They should beat Miami at home.
They should. I mean, I think that's always been – I mean, that's been a coin flip, but maybe it's kind of 60-40. But I hate being that guy. I feel like maybe I'm being hypocritical now because people are like, well, how come you keep saying that, you're going to say Florida's going to win the game? It's a rivalry game. Never count your eggs before they're hatched when it comes to those sort of things. I'm like, well, there's just certain times where it just doesn't line up for you well. I don't know, but I do think like Miami, when they come up here, it's a different sort of dynamic. Even if they come in here on a 5-game losing streak, I still think they'll play their tails off, and it'll be a nail biter just because so many of these games are going to be. But yeah, I mean, just to see how bad they looked against Virginia Tech for such long periods of that game does make you feel a little bit more optimistic about it. But yeah, Syracuse, I feel that's a 60-40 thing for the Noles. Miami, we'll still say 60-40, I guess. We go ahead and say that. Boston College feels like a 60-40 thing, so maybe not a true 50-50 coin flip, but yeah, that's 3 more games. That's 3 wins, and then obviously Alabama State, which is that's like a 99.9999% there. So you beat BC, you hold serve at home, you're going bowling, and then you sneak one past BC, and then you're looking even better. So yeah, things look good. It was a good weekend.
You got Wake, you got Florida, 2 games that aren't completely, they certainly aren't unwinnable.
Yeah.
And at some point, this program will win a game it's not supposed to. I mean, that will happen at some point. So maybe it's this season. And by the way, yeah, both. I will say this: if Auburn had either one of the Florida State quarterbacks, I think they win that game. Yeah. And I just got done saying that I don't think either one of them were great or special. But holy moly, that kid actively lost them the game.
He's not ready.
Like he was awful.
Yeah.
No, and what I don't. Like, and we can say that he played well at A&M, but he didn't. Didn't he throw for like 90 yards? Like, they're winning in spite of him.
Yeah. He had a good game last week against Mississippi State. That's all he's really done. He had a good game last week against Mississippi State. People thought he'd maybe turn some sort of corner beating up on Mississippi State, and no, he did not. Yeah, I mean, the red zone interception was terrible. I mean, just horrendous stuff.
I mean, missing the kid was open by 20 yards, and again, Blackman didn't even let Terry catch his, but the kid was open by 15 yards on the out and up, and the kid makes a great extended catch. Mm-hmm. But he's so far out in front, he has to go lunge, and then you knew they weren't. At least I was like, man, they ain't scoring.
Yeah.
The same thing when Derek Brown picked up that fumble. I'm like, dude, that cost them 6 right there. He tripped on himself. Otherwise, that's a touchdown. They're not going to go down the field and score. And then on that same drive, he makes that bad throw. He misses a guy wide open on a slant for a touchdown. I mean, you just got to make that throw. High school kids. Got to make that throw. Certainly an Auburn quarterback. And then he throws an awful interception on the next play. I don't know why they're not using his legs as much as they do, or as much as they should, I guess. I thought that was his deal, was that he was kind of a dual threat guy. But yeah, he was, and I know he got credit for the Oregon game, but even then, if you watch that game, it wasn't like he set the world on fire.
No, yeah, he did not.
He made a couple plays at the end, but he wasn't special. And I just feel like, man, that Auburn defense is really, really good. And they might have sabotaged their season by playing this kid. Or maybe this was his last bad game and he ends up being awesome. But that was awful. He cost them the game.
Yeah. Good.
That was like the Winky 98 game against NC State. Like, Winky was terrible in that game and then became really good. And he was the reason they lost that game. But holy moly, that kid, I mean, that was one of the worst quarterback games I've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah. How about that? Good for Kevin Steele. I mean, he was kind of left for dead. After he got absolutely demolished as the Clemson DC in that bowl game against West Virginia. Yeah. Auburn's had a legitimately top 10, caliber defense the last 3 years or so, it seems like. And that Derek Brown kid, man, good. Wow. I mean, that kid's special. I mean, I love Marvin.
Yo, he's awesome.
But that kid,
awesome.
wow.
Yo, no, and I do too. He's different than Marvin. He's just an unbelievable talent. Hopefully the Falcons will be able to draft him, since apparently they're going to be picking second in the draft.
Oof.
Hopefully they can get somebody like him.
Yeah. All right, hey, man, enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Corey, have a safe trip, the remainder of your trip. Let's go talk to Willie, ask him some questions. It's Clemson week. We'll take your questions on Thursday on the Renegade Express. Also give us a call, 850-792-5730. Have a great Monday, everybody. He's Corey Maslon. Thanks for listening to Wake Up War Chant.
WarChant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. WarChant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WarChant30. That's WarChant30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WarChant30. WarChant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.